who are at risk. Not for kids who are successful, but we're going to hand pick and give 4-year scholarships starting this year, will be the first one, to individuals like the ones that we found when we were at the juvenile hall. In our third book called Born Not Raised, Polly's going to be producing. And that is based on samples of work that we took in, images, sort of like what Larry did with all of us this morning to get us inspired into an emotional thought of an image. We took images in to provoke and evoke emotion out of kiddos who were all the way in the 1,000 group, which are those are little murders, all the way down to the girls who were runaways, who were going to be wasted and stuck in the system. And what we discovered is that these kids could elicit emotion better than any of us can, on a dime, but their syntax is lousy. Their spelling, their organization of sentences, things that are going to make them successful based on our standards to get a job in a bank or to get a job doing much of anything today. So we need to augment that. We need to get education into the juvenile halls. We need to get educational systems into the jails. But since they say the jails are capable of saying, well, we're just holding tanks, they're not in here long enough, we can't afford those programs. Well, you have a lot of individuals who are back on appeal from prison, who have started to get a GED, but they come back on appeal and they're in the jail then for 6 or 7 months. They fall back. We lose it. There's just no glue. And those are the things that to think about and to work on, and I'll take ideas from anyone. You can email us at any time. I would so appreciate it. The second book we have that's coming out is called Step Over the Bum. This is on the homeless. I've kind of gone backwards, but it is a full cycle. The reason why it's called Step Over the Bum, on their website, it was called Downtown USA, because one of my portraits that I did has an individual lying under this magnificent mural. He's passed out cold on a Sunday morning, and to me that was Downtown USA at that time. But my daughter, the middle daughter, came, she said, you know, Mom, you remember when I went to the 8th grade trip to Washington with my class and to New York, and you remember when we got off the bus at the Washington Monument and the teacher said on the megaphone, step over the bum. She said, I never told you, but we all did. And I said, really? She said, well, actually, you'd either fall over him or you had to step over him. But she said it was the way that she said it on the megaphone in her British accent, step over the bum, and that lingered with Stacy. And I don't think Stacy would have even mentioned that if she hadn't met all these homeless people or had the experiences with me on the street. Now, I'm not suggesting everybody has to have these experiences. But hopefully out of the work that I've done, I can get some of these messages out that people can see and they can start to identify in their society, in their culture, in their neighborhood, in their family, whatever. It's tough material. We were just at Book Soup night before last at a bookstore signing with 5 people. The next night was Hugh Hefner with 140 Pain. So what do we want to see? Where our book was being demonstrated, which was very interesting, was alongside a table of the most famous books now that are out on penises and breasts. And we were talking about this. And the breasts had tomato juice on them dripping and mustard, and I don't need to go into the other ones. And they weren't small books. These were very, very large books that were in the window and very popular books that we had even seen at the BEA when we presented Maggots in My Sweet Potatoes. Now, one last thing, because I got a smile on the Maggots in My Sweet Potatoes. I will tell you that that title came from one of the gals in the minimum security yard, and it had lingered with me. I had the book called Many Other Things for all these years of development and following Bruce Perry around in conferences and trying to put all this stuff together because I'm not a trained psychoanalyst. And she was just clamoring at the fence, as you could probably see a little bit of the energy from these gals. And Susan, come here, I got something to tell you. And so I had been talking to somebody else. I turned around, I went back to her with the tape recorder and with the cameras, and all these gals had to sign waivers. And we only had one inmate out of 100 and some inmates who said that she didn't want her photograph in, but she still wanted her words in. That sums up women and how much they need to talk. And so she said, I had maggots in my sweet potatoes last night. Well, I had been at the kitchen. I had met Carmen, the head chef. I'd been in Otay Mesa where all the chilled blast food was, and I knew that there had been no maggots in her sweet potatoes. But she was so daggum creative to come up with that just to get attention. You know, and she got my attention because the stories that came after that, you know, you listen a little bit here and you listen a little bit there, and you don't know what you're going to totally believe. But the things that you have here that you saw and what's in the book is all very believable. It goes all the way through a murder trial. It takes you through all the different levels of criminal justice. And I just want to thank you. I'm tickled to be here this morning. I know Polly is too. This has been a fun 4 weeks for us going throughout the Northwest and Denver and back to San Diego now we go, and we appreciate it. Go ahead.
I know your entire talk was focused on women and children. This is highly commendable, very, very important. But what about the men? The recidivism in men is even more, and they are a larger number. And I'm just curious.
You're absolutely right. Why did I choose the sampling? This was the 5th jail that I went to with Ben McLaughlin. And he said, I think you found your home. Women are having the babies, not men. Men are going to be idiots, and they're going to go to jail and to prison to be doing more power plays. More power to them, leave them there. The women have got to get smart. And I'm not saying this to be cold. I'm saying it because the guys who are in male behavior in prison is entirely different when we're talking prison than female behavior. And this is, pardon me?
They are more emotionally lost than the women are. Women are at least in touch with the emotions.
Unfortunately not. Unfortunately, women are producing babies and they were never nurtured, they were never bonded, and they don't know how to love. And that is serious. When, you know, if at least we can teach women that the importance of being able to feel and understand what love is. If we can start teaching that, then we can help the men. All the men had mothers. Everyone had a mother. And so my feeling is go to the simplest reduction of this thing. Start there and then campaign out. Men are hurting. There's no two ways about it. They've been abused. There are a lot of guys who have struggled in bad relationships. They're completely lost. They don't get focused, and they use drugs, and they use abuse, and they're the ones who do a lot of the domestic violence, more so than the women. But it's another complicated field, and it's not that I don't want to get involved in it, because I would like to go off to federal prison and start doing some work there. But you bring up something that's very important, and anyone who goes into delving into that, I think it's terrific. And how do we halt the dysfunctional relationships, get people smart and understand feelings? It's going to come through attachment, through bonding, and through nurturing, and through care of children. And it's not going to come from broken relationships. Yeah.